Welcome to the podcast where we keep it real, talking all things women on the Iconic Women Show with your host, Michelle Watson, author, founder, public speaker, and certified performance coach. Get empowered and inspired while learning about overcoming adversity, spirituality, life, and business strategies that will help you achieve your goals. And now, here's your host, Michelle Watson.
Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Iconic Woman podcast, a place where we keep it real, talking all things women. And as you know, I always say it, we have an iconic woman in the studio with us today. And I can't wait to dig with this woman. I can't wait to dig deep with this woman, because when we dig, we dig deep. You know, she's an amazing mother. She's a speaker, she's an author, she is the infinite woman. And we have none other than Jasneth Richards in his house.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that intro. That was absolutely beautiful. Very encouraged. Thank you. Sometimes you forget who you are, until people say, you're like, oh, is that me? Yeah.
You see, you start already.
Sorry.
No. Good. No, but yeah, I this woman, I absolutely love her to bits. I've always loved your character, your realness. Because if you know me, I love to keep it real, and I've loved that. So our convos I think we need to start recording our convos.
It's true.
We need to start recording our convos. Did I mention she's an author? She's also an author. Yeah, she's also an author. And we're going to be digging into something that it's a tough one. It's a tough one to chew. But before I do, Jazz, tell them a bit about you, because I know about you, but they don't know about you.
Wow. So let me try and cram this in a small space. But yes, thank you so much for the wonderful intro, and thank you for bringing me to the Iconic Woman podcast. It's an honor and a privilege. I've known you for quite some time, not the longest time, but quite some time, and our bond has not changed. And it's so beautiful to see what God is doing in and through you through this podcast. And you're one of my inspirations, child. So thank you so much. So yes, a little bit about me. My name is Jasneth Richards. I am a mother of 5, also a grandmother. I know I don't really look it, but I am. My grandson is going to be 3 in April.
Man.
I started my journey as a teen mum. So I had my first daughter at the age of 15. 6 days apart we are, and 6 days later I was a mother at 16 years old. She's now 22, so you lot can do the quick maths. But yeah, and then I've had 4 other children after. I have a 19-year-old, a 20-year-old. Let me autocorrect, because where they change age, you have a 20-year-old, a 16-year-old, 14-year-old, and a 12-year-old. And yes, parenting has not been the easiest, but I wouldn't change it for the world. I believe that God used me to bring them into this earth as a vessel. I'm still learning, still growing through that. Also, I was looked after child, so I grew up in care from the age of 3 to 16. I'll say 18 was when they officially, I was independent. So I've had a lot of tough times in those areas of my life. I was, abused by another girl between the age of 7 and 9. I got arrested at age 15. I was excluded from school. I was in 2 abusive relationships. And I think my supernatural turnaround was when I had my 5th son. And I remember going to my pastor, and I was said to him, I can't do this. I just got baptized, and I said to him, I'm not going to have this child. And I remember him saying to me that you cannot replace sin with sin. And I was like, oh, he was like, well, you fornicated, and now you want to go and get rid of I said,
Yeah,
"Oh,
wow.
you didn't need
Deep.
to go there." But literally, it was just such a pivotal turnaround for me, and he is my saving grace.
Yeah.
Through that, I started my ministry, Desire to Inspire Mums. Desire to Inspire, then it became Desire to Inspire Mums, and from then I've just been using my journey of motherhood to help other mums, women, etc. And yeah, I am an author. Ended up writing a book because everybody used to ask me, how do you do it with 5 children? And when I would say to them the grace of God, they couldn't quite comprehend it.
Yeah.
And I used to say it so like, what's the word? I just used to throw it out, and I thought, you know what? I need to explain this.
Yeah.
So I wrote 10 factors of how I parent 5 children, but more so going through my journey of what I learned about myself.
Yeah.
And what I found with my life is it's always been what I learn about myself. And yeah, that's how the book was birthed. What else about me? I feel like I'm talking a lot, but
You have a massive story. Yeah, you have a
I
lot.
really
You have a lot. There's a lot that still hasn't been mentioned that we're going to go into in a minute.
a lot that hasn't
But you know
been
what I'm saying?
mentioned.
But maybe you're a lifelong learner. And that's how I look at myself. Like, I remember getting to points where I'm like, why do I always have to be dealing with something? But then I've always realized that there's been a lesson that's come out of that. And either the lesson has been used for me, myself, or it's been used for somebody else.
Absolutely.
And so I do believe in life, we have life learners.
Absolutely.
And you maybe just one of them. And sometimes it's painful enough because sometimes you just want it, like, God, okay, I've come up for air. Let me breathe before I get pushed back under the water.
Absolutely.
Let me breathe. But sometimes we don't even get that.
And I think one thing with my story is that all my pain pressure points have given birth to something.
You see.
So, you know, with the book, that was quite a painful time. My children's father left, and that was a painful time for me.
Yeah.
You know, my ministry, Infinite Woman, again, was another painful time. So I feel like when you talk about, you know, going through pain, it's what are you going to do with it?
What are you going to do with it?
Are you going to be bitter?
Or better.
Or are you going to be better?
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, I love that. I love that saying.
Yeah.
And it's so true because I always say it's not the circumstance that is remembered. It's how you deal with the circumstance that gets remembered. Because they will always refer to what you did at that point in time, because what you did at that time is what's going to bring about the result. And people won't look at it from a point of, oh, you know, she was going through this and that's the reason. No. They're gonna look at how you dealt with it, because that's how they that's how they curve you, and like they put you in this, you know, this frame, and that's how it's looked at. So I always say to people, it's not the challenge. The challenge is not who you are. It's not who you are. You're not defined by your challenge. You're not defined by the situation you go through. What helps to give a definition of you is you can either call yourself a sufferer or a survivor.
There you go.
You understand?
So good. Yeah.
And so that is what creates the definition, not the situation you went through, but how you dealt with it. So I love that you alluded to that fact, which brings us to like a more recent scenario, because we're working our way to that one word, you know, that one long word. And I know that obviously, well, I saw Alive. I knew some things before, but I saw your YouTube video, and now I definitely need to put a link in somewhere somehow that will take people to it so they can get more of an explanation. But you went through something recently.
Yes, child, I did. I can't even believe I'm talking about this now, child. But I was in a 4-year courtship, so I thought, which I want to say on the preface has taught me a lot about myself, black men, relationships, me as a woman. And I want to start off by saying, like, I'm not perfect, you know, and, you know, there were, for me personally, a few things that I felt you could have done a bit better. My mouth got me into a lot of different circumstances at times, because my mouth is very sharp.
But it's that realness again, though, Jazz.
And this is the issue.
This
is the issue I have. It's a thin line. It's a thin line.
The realness. The thing is it an issue? And it's a very tricky one, because I think there's so many people out there that want to be tantalized and want to be told the things that they want to hear. But then my thing is always, don't come to a real person and expecting to hear something false. You know, if you've come to somebody that is real, because I always say, if you're going to talk to somebody about a problem or a situation, you need to be analyzing who it is that you're going to speak to.
Yeah.
And through that analysis, you're supposed to be saying to yourself, do I want somebody that's going to keep it real with me? Or do I want somebody that's going to tell me what I want to hear?
There you go.
But you can't come to somebody that you're saying, oh yeah, I want to hear the truth. But then you're not allowing the truth to set you free.
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? So
absolutely. I do feel like, you know, I am a keep it real kind of person.
Yeah.
But I think that
you know,
what I've known now, you got to curb the tongue, the tone as well. And I will say I have called the individual out of their names a couple of times, repented, I've done whatever I need to do, but you know, I've apologized. But generally bringing it back to where we're at now, you know, as I said, I was in a 4-year courtship with the intention to marry, or so I thought. And I think it was like last year, July, it was my birthday. I just changed age. I'll let you lot guess my age. And I just had an epiphany.
Yeah.
And it was such a moment where I was just like, it's almost like I could hear, like God was just saying to me, this isn't it. This isn't it. And we all go through a transformational period, either the new year or the birth year. For me, those are two pivotal times where we feel like it's a new beginning. And I said to the individual, I think you're taking the mick. I said, we've been nearly 4 years and we're still not progressing in this relationship. We're supposed to be practicing celibacy. It's not really going to the best of plans. We're supposed to be getting married and things of that nature. Why are we here? And I was just like, I can't do this anymore. And obviously us as women, sometimes we do get a bit like, we say something and we know something, but it's really hard to walk in it. So I definitely felt like I had a kind of thought process where I was like, should I give it another chance? Should I not? So from July till about latest September, October was a lot of mixed signals, you know, talking, wanting to work it out, things of that nature, meeting with each other, trying to figure it out. And I don't even know, like, because in my video I don't really go into detail, but because just for the mere fact that this is not what I don't want the person to be obliterated or anything of that nature. I don't believe that that's the grace that God has on my life, and I don't think that's anything that God wants anyone to do, to be honest. But in November, I called one of my friends, and the next day I had contacted her, and then I saw on her page that there was this wedding, and I looked at the video, I looked again and again. I must have watched it about 10 times. And I was like, I am sure that is my ex-partner. The ex-partner that I just spoke to 3 days ago, just to check and see how they were, etc. Because it wasn't a bad breakup. And they still wanted to work things out. And I was just like, wait. I said, no. I said, I know that they said that there was a wedding happening, but not their wedding. Like, literally. So I said, wait. In my mind, I'm like, but wait, this is the main character. You're not in the background. You are in the foreground.
You're not best man.
No, you are the main man. You know, and if some of you all know what traditional weddings are and so forth, you can tell who's who, because they usually have a different outfit. They usually do. The whole thing is different. I said, what a wahoo. So I contacted friends. I contacted all people that were mutual to us.
Yeah, because you must be shocked now, because the whole reason why you're saying that the relationship wasn't progressing because you've been waiting on marriage and it's not been happening. So
and then,
how is it that in space of 2 months
I'm seeing,
or 3 months, if that,
marriage is So I've called most people, nobody knows. And I'm like, no, somebody must know. I don't know if I wanted someone to say to me they knew. I don't know if that would have made me feel better. But I was just like, I feel like somebody must know. Nobody knew. And from then, that's where my journey began. And it was very sudden. And I just remember God saying, remain silent. Like,
Wow.
say
Jesus.
nothing.
Remain silent, you know.
Now, if you all know me, remember I told you how I am
Remain
with my
silent.
mouth. I will fight for anyone's rights. But this one right here
Said
zip.
zip.
I can't call them. I cannot go to their house. I cannot make contact with anybody that they might know. Like immediate, just say no more. And I said, God, like, are you being serious right now? Like, say
Like,
nothing.
how can I be silent with that? Do you know what's happening inside? Like,
But you know
turmoil.
what's so beautiful is
Yeah.
accountability
Yeah.
and a sister circle.
Yeah.
I urge anyone who is going through a painful season, make sure that you are held accountable and make sure that you have a sister circle, because in doing so, I'm able to say to
The
people,
right sister circle.
and the right
That-
sister
yeah.
circle.
Because you know there's some circles that would have been telling you, come Jasnet, we need to get
Oh,
baseball bat.
till now,
come
people
on.
still want to ride out, and I have to be like, it's good. Don't worry about it. You don't need to do that. God said, vengeance is mine. We're not going to do
Serve
that.
the Lord, like.
And this is not something that I'm standing on, or this is not something that I'm waiting to happen. But I believe that when you do something in a specific vein, you cannot expect fruitfulness.
Oh, yeah.
It's just, you just can't. Yes, you can repent. Yes, you can do whatever.
It's like planting bad seeds but expecting a good fruit.
To come from it. You cannot you cannot do something in this way and expect greatness. But I think that was painful, and I think the reason why that was very painful for me is because this wasn't something that I would have ever expected from this person. Any one of my past people, but this person right here,
It's like deep trust is broken.
I was just like,
Deep.
if I weren't sure, now I'm confused whether your name is your name. That's how much I'm like, for somebody to do something along those lines and then just throw it on social media, it's crazy to me. I just realized that I was in a double act. I was in, there's no way you can meet somebody and just get married that quickly. And if so, then that means that you were taking me along a journey of fakeness, a false ride. That was tough. That was really tough. And that was only November last year. We're only in February.
Wow.
But what God has done in the midst of it is only because of his instructions.
He works, isn't it? That's how he works.
Yeah.
The calm is not noticeable without the storm. You know, the rain is not appreciated without the dry season. And I think that is what we don't realize. The testimony is not solid without the test. And you can't be victorious without a battle.
There you go.
You know, so it is. But you know what I'm thinking? When I'm listening to your journey, even from the get-go, the beginning, when you're talking about, you know, growing up through foster care and all of that thing, did you I think it's a silly question, because I can't say did you, because you would have had to have a lot of things that you've carried inside of you that you had to get to a point of releasing. Because now we're diving into the word forgiveness. Forgiveness, that word that some people, they hear it and they get shook. What was that process like for you? Because I'm sure you had to deal with a lot of things, you know, maybe going through the motions. Like for me, I didn't grow up in foster care. I grew up with my grandparents. Yes. But even though it was still my grandparents, my blood, that, you know, I had a you know, a decent enough life, I carried some resentment to my parents, because I felt like I was rejected. I felt like they didn't want me. You know, I didn't know my dad until I was really 19. Wow. So for me, I felt like, so for you, growing up in foster care, or any other child growing up in foster care, is there a lot of like internal battles when it comes to the areas of forgiveness, like
Absolutely.
against my parents, like feeling resentment? So
Absolutely. I felt a lot of rejection, a lot of resentment, rebellious seasons and things of that nature. But definitely I feel like my whole life has been a forgiveness journey. And I think scripturally it's like, how many times should I forgive my brother? 77 times. 77 times what? But
in a day.
In a day, mind you, not in a year,
In a
not in a
day.
month, in a day. That can be very difficult, but I believe that every season that I've gone through has prepared me for such a time as this. So from me forgiving, and sometimes you actually realize there is nothing to actually forgive. Because my mum, she suffered from mental illness and still does till this day, unfortunately. But at my point of growing up, I'm like, why did she, like, there were so many thought processes, but looking back upon reflection, how could she have looked after you in such a time? So what is it that I'm actually forgiving? Okay, some people might be in that position and need to forgive, sure. But for me,
I love that.
it was like getting to a point where it's just like, well, you're holding on to things that actually you don't need to hold on to because there was no other way.
That's a shift of perspective right there.
Literally. And that was my word for last year, perspective.
Perspective.
And
100.
even in the situation to date, my perspective is there is no way that this person could have done this and been the man to carry me and my children,
right there,
my purpose,
right
the
there.
plan that God has for me,
Yeah.
and be around the people that are around me. No way.
Yeah.
So when you put things into perspective, you are now not holding on to things too long. And remember, that big F word, forgiveness, is more so for us.
I was saying it to somebody the other day, Jazz, because they were like, you know, why, with all that they've done, and them not even coming and maybe asking for, you know, or giving an apology, why should I forgive? And I said, because guess what? If you're waiting for them to come and apologize, you're waiting for it to be about them. And you have to understand that forgiveness is not about the other individual. It's about yourself, you being able to release and let that person go. So I said to them, you know, I had a vision. When it comes to forgiveness, I've had so many visions. And this one wasn't necessarily about forgiveness, but it was about carrying other people's bags, right? And so imagine this being like, you know, an empty room and you're in here from the age of 5, right? And every day someone came 5 times per day, knocked the door and left a bag at the door. You open the door, you pick the bag up, you put it inside the room. Check that from 5-year-old to where you are at now. Imagine the room. You're lost in that room now, you know. Remember, you're lost. This room is packed now because every day, 5 times per day, somebody's putting a bag at the door. You've opened the door and picked up the bag and you've put it inside. You become lost. And the worst thing is you've become lost not even with your bags. You've become lost with somebody else's baggage, right? We have a choice. We have a choice to hear the door knock, open the door, see a bag at the door, and is my name on it? No, it's not. Okay, so it's not mine. Close the door and leave the bag there. But as we go through life, there's so many things that we've opened the door to and not closed the door back on.
Okay.
We've picked it up and brought it into our space, right? And so that's why when somebody has road rage, I can smile at me. I can smile because, okay, something's going on with you. You ain't dropping that bag in my car. You understand? To spoil my day, right? And I think it's the same thing when it comes to forgiveness, because you can choose to carry that bitterness. And that person has gone on about their own business. And
they're living their dream.
There's a quote, I can't remember if it was Nelson Mandela or who it was, that said, unforgiveness is like drinking poison and expecting your enemy to die.
Oof.
You're drinking poison expecting your enemy to die. And I remember when I was speaking to this individual, she was like, yeah, but that still, it's not, the math is not mathing with me with that. And I said, okay, let me break it down. When I was thinking about myself, when I was going through the unforgiveness of, you know, my ex and what he did and all of these things, I was carrying this bitterness on for a long time. And all it took was for me to either see him, hear him, or even his name being mentioned or something in regards to him, and my whole mood, everything, I could have been the happiest of persons, and then everything about me changed because of the residue of the bitterness that was in me, the unforgiveness that was happening, right? Until the day I came to realize, I was like, hold on. Despite this man no longer being in my life, I'm still allowing him to press my buttons. I'm still allowing him to manage my state, even though I've said I've removed him from my circle. I removed him from my circle, but I didn't remove him from my life.
Okay.
Because I am still carrying him within me in the whole realm of unforgiveness.
And I really want to piggyback off of that, because what's coming to my mind is hidden unforgiveness.
Hidden unforgiveness.
But not only in what the individual has done, but the seed that is planted in you that has caused you to do so. So let me give you an example. So for example, with this situation of me having this, this distressing time where I'm just seeing this guy online being married, what it's also doing to me is it's tapping into areas of my life that I felt pain in. So I remember one time when I had my 5 children, yes, and I had just got baptized. I remember I said that my pastor said, you cannot replace sin with sin. So I had my son, and as I said, it was the greatest blessing. However, I remember somebody made a comment, one of the church sisters, and she said to me, oh, you're going to put yourself in this situation, and now you got 5 children, you're going to be put on the shelf. And that
which shelf?
Which shelf? Anyway, so child. But that was a seed that I carried for a long time until I met people who also have 5 children. I've got testimonies for day of people that have children and go into relationships. I mean, so for yourself, your husband is not the father of all your children.
No.
However, I was just like, this is now pressing that button. Although I know, but I have to fight that very quickly to be like, no,
deeper,
that's not what it is. What it is that this individual was not able to carry what God has inside of you. And perspective will turn it around to be like, God allowed this to happen because I need to permanently shut this door because this has gone on for too long. And really tapping into, what is the actual root of this? Is this just what's in the surface, or does it go back?
What's underneath?
Right. So, for example, that now can trigger rejection from me, not being with my family and things of that nature. And that's why I say that you've got to do the work on you.
100%.
It's not fair to bring people into situations and circumstances that you haven't fully healed from or addressed or are dealing with or even can admit, I have a bit of trust issues. I have a bit of rejection issues. I'm working through them, but I need you to know that this is it. And then allowing the person to actually call you out on it and be like, well, this seems to be a bit of a rejection moment here. I'm not rejecting you. I'm just saying to you that I don't feel as though this is going anywhere. And instead of standing in the truth of that, you're trying to fight what it is, and it's not that. Instead of allowing the person to go. And I think that was definitely something in my relationship for time. God gives us signs, child.
Of course.
God gives us signs.
Of course.
But the hope in it was just like, you know what?
You keep holding on, you're clinging.
He's all right. He's an all right guy.
We can make this work. You know what? I'm a mother, nurturing, if I nurture him the right way.
Oh, child. God never asked you to nurture no one. He knows me and my 5 children. He knows me, this, that, and the other. No, it's a lie. Like when you see the signs, the signs are the signs, and God is just not gonna.
Don't try to paint over.
No,
the signs.
you can't do it. You just can't. And this is exactly what it was. When God is like, okay, I see. All right, let me give this to you.
Come back to this thing with this. I think I mentioned it in the car. The verse that says, you have eyes but you're blind. They have eyes but they're blind, and ears but they're deaf. And sometimes we play that game because we don't really want to see what we don't want to see. So even though when God is showing it to us, we're like, we look, but one of them ones where you see a child maybe coming with something and you're like, no, we have to be real, we're parents, right? There's times when your children are coming to you with something and you want to relax. So you see them coming out the corner of your eye, you know, you want to be acting as if you don't
didn't
really see,
it.
you don't really see.
Play fool for catch
Play fool
wise.
to catch wise. And we do the same thing with God. Like he's showing us, and it's like, because it's not really what we want to look, we're glancing the other way, you know, that's not, it wasn't really for me. You understand? And even with messages, when we get them sometimes, we're quick to hand it over to somebody else when it was for me. Yeah, I'm ready to go and deliver something that was actually for me. But with the unforgiveness, can you imagine if you've not forgiven? And I'm saying it because based on conversations, I know that you've allowed yourself to release the individual. Because imagine how hard it would be for you to try and move on, holding on to this thing.
Well, this is it.
It's like it can, without realizing, people don't realize that unforgiveness can be an anchor. You could have so much potential in the world. And I always say, think about a ship filled with all its gems and all its beauty and everything, but yet it's anchored. How far can it go?
There you go.
Despite the potential.
And I always say to people, like, I still believe in love. And I believe that God's promises still stand.
Yes.
Despite what I might see, it's not what I see. Remember what God has said. Don't let what you see mess up what God has said.
Ooh, I love that.
And I'm just I so believe in love. I feel like the individual has taught me a lot about myself, how I am in a relationship. As I said, I'm not perfect, but I feel like I've realized that I had a lot of insecurity and my confidence has been built so much through this process in a bizarre kind of way that I actually realized what I actually want and what I don't want. And this person allowed and helped me to see this. And I remember I was saying it today actually on a prayer call to one of my sisters that I remember days before God led me to write a letter to my husband. And as I was writing it, I knew it wasn't him. I could just feel something in me. And I was writing confidently what I wanted in a husband, but also what I wanted to be to my husband. And I sealed up this letter. And then literally a few days later, I found out that this person had gotten married. And I remember there's a book by Sarah Jakes Roberts that was just being highlighted to me called Don't Settle for Safe.
Yeah.
And that's what I felt I was doing. I was settling for safe and not feeling as though I deserved a little bit more. I was just looking to settle for the bare minimum. And I knew.
Do you think that's down to, obviously, going back to, you know, what this woman said about being on the shelf? Do you think that there was a bit of a fear there that, you know, if this is not it, then God, what is it?
I think what it was more so, it could have been my part of that, but more so, this wasn't something that was done on purpose. This was something that organically happened. We were great friends.
Okay.
And I think even now till this day, the friendship part of it really hurts the most.
Yeah, it would do.
Because I thought that we were really great friends, because we were great friends before we got together. So for you to do that to me, just even as a friend, it's very, very painful.
Definitely.
And you know, I just feel as though you knew this wasn't going anywhere, but for some reason, I don't know if they wanted to have their cake and eat it. I don't know if it was they weren't sure. I don't know what it was, but whatever it was, it wasn't right, and it wasn't okay. And I've had to allow God to release the individual from my life, and just understand that you were right in your discernment, that your discernment is clear. Trust yourself. Trust your inner, the voice of the Holy Spirit within. Allow him to work in you, and, you know, just, it's okay to be alone. If this is not where it's supposed to be going, let it go. Because I saw a quote the other day that said, the more you hold on to what's not for you, is the more you're going to stop what God has for you
from coming in. 100%. Because if you're holding something in your hand that you're not meant to be holding, and he's waiting for you to release it so that he can put what he wants to put in there, whatever is there is blocking traffic. You know what I'm saying? But, you know, going back to what you were saying, did you come to a point where, because I know I went through that, where I had to actually forgive myself because I was carrying so much. it's amazing that we don't realize at times that we carry resentment against ourselves. So a lot of people don't go through the I forgive me process because they don't even think that, oh, there's no way I could have resentment against myself. But I did. Because for me, it was like, how did I bring this person into my life? How did I, have children with this person? How like the decision that I made, like I didn't trust my decisions. And so I had so much resentment against myself because, again, the signs. So I saw the signs and I chose not to pay attention to those signs. And so I got to a point where in my head I was going, I've wasted my time. I've wasted so much of my life. I didn't have to. I've experienced all of this because I didn't heed to the very first sign. And so I carried a bit of resentment for myself. And I do believe that a lot of women do that, even young, the Gen Zs, they carry a lot of resentment without even realizing that they carry a resentment. And so they find it difficult to have that self-love because they're not only taking on what the individual has done, but they're also triggering, directing hate towards themselves. Did you find where you had to do some releasing or you had to do some forgiveness for yourself of like, why, when I saw the signs, why didn't I, did you beat yourself up at all? Or
a little bit, absolutely. I was just like, but you knew this person wasn't for you. And I think the most thing that I had to do was to forgive myself for allowing this individual around my children. But in the same breath, I spoke to my children. I said, I still believe in love. And I'm not going to allow this situation to stop me from receiving what God has for me. Because this was a trigger for them too.
Of course.
Because at first, as obviously being children, you're not really... They never had a real issue with him.
Yeah.
They
without
never
knowing
really
it, they
did.
could be maybe looking at it as rejection as well.
Well, this is
so
it.
I love the way that you've dealt with it because, again, how you deal with it will also be what they see.
Absolutely. And I had to just let them know, like, this is not something that I want you to carry. I think that this is the own individual's issues and things that they're dealing with, pressures, traumas, whatever it is, and this is nothing to do with who we are or what's happening in us. It's only them. But definitely had to forgive myself for that because I was just like, oh, my children have now known that this is it, and they're probably thinking, I knew it, I knew we shouldn't have liked him and this, that and the other. And I felt like they let him in a lot. And I think he had a bit of insecurities when it came to my children because of, how they didn't like him. And as they got to like open up a little bit more, because I still till this day I ask them, did he do anything? They said, no, just didn't want you to have a boyfriend. Like literally, like sometimes your children did he look at you inappropriately? Did he do something?
It's child selfishness that comes out.
It was just, but they were like, no, we just didn't want you to have a boyfriend. But, and even when I said to them when we broke up, because I don't really tell them that we break up, you go through ups and downs. And when I told them, my daughter was like, what did you do? I was looking at her, I said, wait a minute. That's how much they were like on his side kind of thing. So I think that was the saddest part for me.
Imagine
that I had to forgive myself for, because then again, you can also look at yourself like, have I been the cause of stopping them from having this male person in the house and so forth? But on reflection, this wasn't the individual that's for me, and I have to realize that me and my children are a prize. We are a jewel.
I love that.
And that anybody that comes into us is going to have favor because we are a family that are full of purpose. We are a family. We might not be perfect, but we bring laughter, joy. Like, my family is good. So anybody that's coming in is going to be blessed to be around my children. And the blessings that we have are going to filter into their lives. And this is how I had to build myself back up, because I could have very much gone the other way.
Definitely.
And
100%.
been like, oh, it's because I've got 5 children and this, that and the other, and this is why blah, 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 and so on and so forth. But God has been so good to enable me to know how much I am worth. And how much I am valued. And I'm even reading a book now by Faith Jenkins called Don't Settle. And it's really helping and zoning into who I am as an individual and what God intends and has for me and the type of man that God has for me. But yeah, it's still a work in progress.
No,
But
100%.
yeah, I'm so grateful for the journey, so grateful for what God has done, so grateful for what He will continue to do, um, and just looking forward to moving ahead and seeing all that God has for me. I'm
Yeah, no,
excited.
no, I love that because, as we know, and as we said before, like forgiveness is not, it's not easy. I know that I say it like it's just blasé. Sometimes I'm like, Mish, you have to realize that you had to work through some things to get to this point. And sometimes when I'm saying to somebody, yeah, you know what, you just have to forgive, they're like, yeah, so it's easy for you. It's easy for you to say. It's okay for you to say because you don't understand. It's not about that, because I'm more looking at what it's going to do for you, the individual. And I think one of the things when it comes to forgiveness, a lot of people think that, oh, I'm doing the person that's offended me a favor. You're not doing the person that's offended you a favor. You're actually doing yourself a favor. When we think about how many times like somebody has wronged us and they've continued their life and they don't even remember anything about us, they're not even thinking about us. It's the same thing with road rage. Somebody's like, they told you the F, the this, the this, the that, and it's destroyed your whole day. And they've gone on and they've had the brilliant day. They don't even remember what they said to you, but it's destroyed your day. And it comes back again to you've allowed them to manage your state of being. Jazz, I remember I told you I got some loads of visions about unforgiveness, right? And I remember there was one day I had this vision, and basically I was on this journey. I was on this long corridor journey going to heaven. That's what I saw. And at the time, there were 3 individuals that I held in my heart with unforgiveness.
Wow.
And I got to the door. And they were the security guards standing at the door. I just get these wild ones.
Yeah.
They were standing at the door. And I could see everything inside, but they weren't allowing me. They were barricading me. And I said, hold on. So I'm going to go through this whole journey of life and allow these 3 individuals to stop me from getting to the destination that I want to get to. Are they worth it?
Absolutely not.
And that's what I had to look at. That vision, like, it did so much for me in regards to letting go, because I'm like, I'm actually allowing this thing. So don't matter what I'm doing, I could pray in all the prayers, doing all the things, because I'm asking God to forgive me. But yet, even despite the fact that I'm asking Him to forgive me, I'm not willing to forgive somebody else.
There you go.
So how does the math work?
It's like a ring of bondage. Imagine I married this guy now. I would have been in a ring of bondage because this wasn't what God had for me. So me holding on, and what is it that I'm not forgiving? Is that what you actually wanted?
Yeah, exactly.
When you look at it,
Thank you.
did you want that for your life?
Yeah.
Somebody who can be deceitful, who can lie, who can take you on a journey and it's not really real. What are you holding? No, please. By all means
now.
necessary.
Yeah.
I
Go
release
now.
you. This
I
is
release
good.
you. No, it's true. Because you can be upset about, and I love the fact that you said that, about the fact that you were saying that what is there to forgive? Because you could have made this decision 10 years down the line. Do you get where I'm coming from? 10 more, that's 10 more years of your life, And that's why I'm saying in life, we have to do the shift of perspective. Like, you're a 5-year-old, you ask your child, your child asks you for a car, and you say, no, I'm not buying it for you. Because if I buy it for you, what are you going to do? You're going to hurt yourself. And the child is like, you obviously hate me, you don't like me, because I've asked you for something, you've not given it to me. Right? And then they're carrying on forgiveness for something that's actually saving them. So it's actually saved them, you not giving it to them, but they're carrying on forgiveness. And it's basically the same thing that you just said. How can you have unforgiveness for something that's possibly saved you from something that you've not seen?
You've not seen yet.
You've not seen yet, right? And there's so many people, you'd be surprised the amount of people I've spoken to that unforgiveness is their biggest and greatest barrier that they struggle with. And again, it's not easy because your mind is constantly telling you, I'm letting this person off the hook. By forgiving them, I'm letting them off the hook. But actually, you're not. You're letting yourself off the hook by not being anchored by something that's going to hold you. And how does it... Right, so let's say we carry unforgiveness. We carry the bitterness. How does it benefit us?
No way. There's no way that it benefits me at all. What it does is it stops me from progressing. Imagine I now meet somebody else, and because of what the individual has done to me, I'm now carrying this into this relationship. That's madness. It's like doing the same, what they say, when you do the same thing, expecting different results.
Madness.
It's insanity.
Insanity.
It's insanity.
Yeah.
And I just believe that there are things that God wants to do with me, and I believe that he's expedited my healing process for a reason, because it's like, despite what's happened, there's things to do. We got work to do. You got a ministry. You got things that I need you to do. There's books I need you to write. There's things that I need you to do. And also using this as something, as a tool. Again, remember I spoke in the beginning about using my pain
As a
for
purpose.
purpose.
Yeah.
And
how are you going to speak to somebody about forgiveness if
I don't,
not dealt with, like, because if somebody says to me, oh, you have no idea. I remember speaking to somebody just yesterday about forgiveness and, being able to say sorry even when you weren't the one that did anything wrong. And they're looking at me like, you're crazy. Like, how are you expecting me to do that? And I had to show them examples from my own story to let them know that, listen, what I'm saying to you is I'm not saying to you it's textbook. I'm not saying to you it's easy. I'm just saying to you that it's a journey and it's a process that you have to go through, not for the sake of the other individual, but for the sake of myself. And I was sharing with them and saying to them that on the day of me actually hearing somebody speak ill about me, I went to the kitchen and cooked dinner for that individual. And they're like, you must be mad. I'm not doing that. But I'm able to come out of that with a heart of feeling, yeah, I've got this.
Yeah, God has asked me for some crazy things where I'm just like, are you being serious? Like, you want me to do what? You want me to call and say what? After I felt so offended or things like that. But the main fact of the matter is it's your offences.
Yeah.
And there's something that I want to break in you, why I ask you to do certain things, because you're going to come through times where you are going to face more battles.
Of course.
With your husband, when you get married, what are you going to do? Next, when he does this, you're walking away. No, I don't forgive you. I'm this, that, and the other. Looking to file a divorce and all things. You got to work through things. You got to forgive 100%. Things. And
I heard a saying once, and it basically said, if you panic or if you die or you panic when a chicken shows up, what are you going to do when a lion shows up?
There you go.
And that is exactly what not dealing with that unforgiveness will do, because there's buried things or things that are buried that sometimes it's going to be dug up, and unfortunately it's going to be dug up at a time when you don't want it to be dug up. So it's better to deal with it now than instead of burying it. Deal with it now so that nothing is there buried. So even if you need to dig deep into the foundation, you're not coming across skeleton bones, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, so Jazz, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for sharing your story. And just, I believe that a lot of people will not only learn but also be blessed by your journey and by what you have shared with us today. So thank you for being a part of the Iconic Woman, and for shining your light and just being real and being who you are. Really, so guys, thank you so much for tuning in once again to the Iconic Woman podcast, a place where we keep it real, talking all things women. Remember to go out there and be the iconic woman that you are. Shine and be that representative. The world needs you.
Thank you for tuning in, and we hope you enjoyed today's episode of the Iconic Women Show. We look forward to having you again. So don't forget to subscribe and do the 3 R's. Leave your ratings, reviews, and recommend to your family and friends.